Hello everybody, today I'm going to be talking about one of the greatest monster legends of all time, the Beast of Gevaudan. Now this story is about this unknown beast that terrorized France and is responsible for hundreds of deaths. An absolute ton of people were said to have seen this creature, and it became such a big deal that the government of one of the most powerful nations at the time could not slay it. In my last video, I introduced that I'm doing this real-life monster series over some of the most famous man-eaters in history, which are animals that become serial killers. In my last video, I talked about the killer crocodile Gustave, this enormous Nile crocodile that terrorized this small country in Africa called Burundi, and was rumored to have killed as many as 300 people, which it was likely more around 60, which is still a massive amount for a crocodile. In this video, we're going to be diving into the next real-life monster, the Beast of Gevaudan. All man-eaters in this series are shrouded with legends and accounts that over time most likely became exaggerated. But none of the man-eaters we're going to talk about has as much mystery surrounding it as the Beast of Gevaudan. So let's get into it. But before we get into it, let's have a quick word from our sponsors. Oh, it's me! Buy my merch right now. Got the Hollow Earth in gray. Here we got the black Hollow Earth. This is my favorite. You need this right now. And of course we got the Live Free or Kill Dozer. But seriously, if you want to support the channel or get some really cool merch, go to conspiracycloset.net. Thank you guys. So back in 1764 France, there began to arise this beast that was said to roam and absolutely terrorize this remote area in southern France called Gevaudan, which is how the beast got its name. The Gevaudan attacks began in this rural, quiet farm region, which, as you can see in this series, a lot of these man-eaters, these serial killer animals, roam these rural areas, which makes sense. On the edges of human civilization, this is where they're dominated by the animal kingdom. And this is where you'd expect problems to arise. It's where humans are easier to hunt and where predators are more abundant and comfortable. So in this rural area, the monster's first victim was Jeanne Boulet, a 14-year-old girl who was watching her sheep when she was suddenly attacked and torn apart. Her heart was savagely just ripped out of her chest. And you know, being the 1700s, it wasn't too concerning. Animal attacks in the region were fairly common, but not ordinary to happen consistently. But just months after this, another teenage girl was attacked in the same region in the exact same way. She was mortally wounded, but with her last breath, she described that the attacker was a horrible beast. In the next few months, more and more children and women were killed by this unknown animal. And towards the end of 1764, accounts began to circulate that these victims had their throats ripped out, their heads gnawed off, and mass hysteria and panic began to spread throughout the region. Descriptions of the beast varied, but most agreed that it resembled an abnormally large wolf that was as big as a calf, with a large dog-like head, huge mouth full of teeth, and it was also said to have hind legs longer than its forearms and have a laugh-like cry, and fur that was reddish-brown with a black streak down its back, which was very similar to a hyena. So authorities, fearing more widespread mass hysteria, requested military assistance. Jean-Baptiste Duhamel, the captain of the local infantry, was assigned with finding and killing the beast. So Duhamel had heard that some children had just found their mother half-eaten in a field, and they ordered them to not bury her so that he and his men could watch her and see if the beast came back to finish eating her. And after waiting patiently for 2 days, nothing happened. So he tried another tactic. He heard that the beast preyed primarily on women and children, so he had his soldiers dress like these peasant women and go herd cattle with children in different villages of Gevaudan. But after 12 days and 8 villages, they had no luck. This is when he decided if he couldn't lure the beast that he would go and find it. So he spent all winter gathering soldiers and hunters to go find the beast, and this is what he quoted to get people excited about going and finding it. This animal is a monster whose father is a lion. It remains open what the mother is. So when February rolled around, he had organized 20,000 men to search for the beast. And also the reward for killing the beast was a year's salary for working men, so you can imagine they definitely wanted that. However, the weather in Gevaudan is notoriously bad. It has long and cold winters, wet summers. Various times, the animal escaped into the mist and the hunters just gave up due to heavy rain. In addition to all that, the horses couldn't be used in the swamps, and the creature could easily escape in the forest or highlands. So the beast was extremely difficult to hunt due to the terrain and the weather of this area. It was said on one occasion that these peasants were chasing the beast into the forest when it dropped its food, which was the head of a 14-year-old girl. So after a while, King Louis XV had decided that Duhamel had failed. So he sent in a famous hunter, Jean-Charles Duval, which he was this legendary hunter who had killed thousands of wolves in Normandy. So Jean Duval went with his son and relieved Duhamel from his hunting. This legendary hunter believed that these were Eurasian wolves and that they were best hunted with stealthy tactics and with bloodhounds, which they hunted for 4 months but had just terrible weather. So after even these famous and esteemed hunters failed to kill the beast, the attacks continued. In just the first 3 months of 1765, 29 villagers were killed by the beast. And it was really bad. Society was at a standstill, marketplaces were deserted, peasants would not go outside of their house alone, and after another string of attacks, King Louis had enough and sent his own personal hunting assistant and royal gun-bearer, Francois Antoine, in addition to several other huntsmen, to travel to Gevaudan to kill the beast. During the royal gun-bearer's travels, he heard about a woman who had survived an attack. Her name was Marie Vallée. She was attacked when she was crossing a river with her sister. The beast had snuck up behind the girls, but Marie was prepared and had a spear with her, which she stabbed into the chest of the beast. She reported that after she stabbed the beast, it cried loudly and then rolled off into the waters of the river. This earned her the name the Maid of Gevaudan, which there's still a statue today in Avors, France, where you can see her holding the spear and there's the beast. At last, in September 1765, Antoine had a good lead on the beast. He had lined up gunmen along the forest edge when sure enough the wolf stepped into view. Antoine aimed down his musket, fired, and shot the wolf, dropping it with one shot in its eye. But the animal picked itself back up and began to charge at him. Antoine had no time to reload, but another officer nearby fired at the wolf, making it stumble and then finally fall to the ground for good. The wolf that they had killed had lacked the black stripe and bushy tail and talons described in the attack reports, but after formally questioning attack survivors, it was accepted as the same animal. Believing it was the beast, Antoine presented it to the king in the royal palace of Versailles, and he received the reward money and the villages gave them their gratitude. The king was so proud he displayed his stuffed wolf for everybody to see in his court, and he even charged a fee for ordinary citizens of Paris to come and look at it. And all was well. Until 2 months later when the killings started back up. For another 18 months, something continued to stalk the villagers of Gevaudan with a reported 30 to 35 fatalities in that period. A witness reported that an animal that was much larger than a wolf had a black stripe running down its back. And local officials announced that the beast was no doubt still alive and Antoine had killed the wrong beast. But at this point, the king and military officials didn't care. They had tried so hard and they just pretended that they had killed it, even though the killings continued. So in the summer of 1767, 300 villagers had enough and they set out into the nearby forest to kill the beast themselves. This is when a large wolf leapt out of the brush and came at a local innkeeper named Jean Chastel, who shot and killed it. This beast had an enormous head and a coat that was unusually red and gray, kind of like the old witnesses had described. Local authorities interviewed hundreds of people who had seen the beast, who all agreed that Chastel had indeed killed the beast of Gevaudan. Now some claim that the bullet that Chastel used was actually a silver bullet, which this would later go on to inspire the werewolf stories about how they can only be killed by a silver bullet. But I'm not sure if it's historically accurate that he had used a silver bullet. Chastel then had the beast taxidermied and went to show the King of France, King Louis XV. And when Chastel had got to the king's palace, the Palace of Versailles, the king was like, "Get that rotting thing out of here, that's not the wolf, I have the beast, you don't." And so he left humiliated and didn't get any bounty money, which sucks because it would have been a lot of money. But Chastel became like a folk hero to the people of Gevaudan. He was this brave peasant who had slayed this monster that even the government of one of the most powerful countries at the time could not slay. So all in all, between 1764 and 1767, around 99 to 113 people were killed by this creature, or likely this creature specifically. The main records of these attacks were the parish registers, which are these handwritten books that documented births and deaths, and sometimes they specified the cause of the deaths. At the time of the Beast of Gevaudan, some of the registered mentioned a beat, which is a French word for beast. In popular tradition, as soon as a wild animal started killing multiple humans, it became a bestia, which in Latin is a monster. So what was the monster responsible for all the deaths in Gevaudan, or was it a cryptid or undiscovered creature? Well, historians to this day are still unsure what the beast was. Some hold on to the belief that it was a large wolf or various wolves in the area, but there are other theories. A popular theory is that the beast was a lion, which specifically many experts claim that the survivors' descriptions of the beast was probably a young male lion that had not yet reached maturity. Most people living in southern France in the 1700s would have never recognized a lion in person. I mean, if you had never seen a lion before, or even seen a drawing of a lion, you saw one, you would definitely think it's a monster, for sure, 100%. Some believe it was a hyena. The account of Mary Valet and her sister gives some descriptions that was similar to a hyena. They said the beast was the size of a large farm dog. Its front legs were larger than its rear legs. It had a big flat head and big teeth. However, they also said that it had grayish fur and a white chest mark, and it had a black back. And some depictions got rather sinister, such as the following image created in 1764. I love it. The wording on the image transfers to, "Drawing of the monster that afflicts Gevaudan. This beast is the size of a young bull. It prefers to attack women and children. It drinks their blood, cuts their head off, and then carries them away. 2,700 francs are promised to who kills this animal." Accounts like this support the supernatural explanation, werewolves. I also saw a source that suggested that it could have been a dire wolf left over from the Ice Age, which is a really cool theory, but it's kind of far out there since they probably went extinct 10,000 years ago. But it's kind of like the Shunkawarakin in Montana. I don't know if you know about that. It's like that thing sounded like a dire wolf too, like a lot like a dire wolf. Kind of a similar story, but less people deaths. It was just animal deaths. Anyways, in addition to not knowing what the beast was, we also don't know what caused the beast to kill so many people. Perhaps it was suffering from an injury that limited its ability to hunt regular prey, or maybe it had a disease which caused the beast to go into a killing rampage. I personally lean towards the lion theory because people in the region like really knew wolves. They knew no matter how big it was, they knew what it looked like. But large cats tend to become man-eaters like the Savo lions, but who knows, it's fun to speculate. To me, this story is terrifyingly amazing because even though we know the beast is just an animal, although a very large one, it's not a supernatural being, but the death, suffering, and destruction that it caused that made it something close to a horror story monster. The mystery behind this creature definitely adds to the reign of terror that it afflicted on France. The stories behind the beast make it such a scary tale, the rainy, woodsy areas, the involvement of the king, and all the failures of the government, typical. The horrifying and conflicting accounts of what the creature looked like and how it killed its victims. It almost does seem like just a story, but unfortunately the beast was very real to those Franks, especially those who lived in Gevaudan. And that's all for today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for 60,000, that's epic. Hit that notification bell if you want to hear more, because I have a few more of these videos I'm going to pump out about serial killing animals, man-eaters. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one when I talk about another horrifying animal that's real. Probably. Goodbye.